And the World Cup is nearly here. The headlines are starting to roll in around it. We've got a U.S. men's national team roster that was released just a couple of days ago. They had their roster unveiling ceremony, party, parade thing, whatever that was, on Tuesday. And we're starting to get the soccer fever. So we've brought on Tosin Makinde, a soccer analyst, to help us break down everything that's coming up with the World Cup. Good morning, Tosin. How are we doing?
Good morning, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Nice to hear you again from our CBS Sports days. What a long time ago that was. Much stuff has happened since then. The United States have gotten a World Cup, and now we're getting ready for it. So, just to kick us, I didn't mean for that pun there, but we'll go past it. General expectations here for the World Cup, which kicks off just in a couple of weeks.
I think the excitement is going to come after the Champions League. I think what's happening around is there's so much soccer that's going on that everyone's kind of, in fluster in a sense. There's so much going on, and then it doesn't help with the politics. So I think once the World Cup really kicks off, everybody's going to be really excited. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it doesn't feel like a World Cup." It always feels like that. I mean, it is what it is. Once the World Cup actually probably kicks off, the same way we said about Qatar, the same way we said about Russia, it's going to kick off, and everyone's going to enjoy it as per.
Yeah, if Qatar felt like a World Cup when it was played not during the typical World Cup window, I think anything can feel like a World Cup. And with it being on U.S. soil, there's a lot of hope. I don't want to see a lot of expectations, but I think there's hope that the U.S. men's national team will have a valiant effort. But I just saw some news come across here, Tosin, where the head coach of the U.S. men's national team may be leaving the team after the World Cup to go take the head coaching job or the head man job over with AC Milan. How's that going to impact things?
I mean, I think going into hiring Pochettino, I think you kind of already knew that he wasn't going to be here long term. And this was always my issue with him being the head coach. I think that, and I say this in general for every national team, I'm Nigerian, I'm British and American as well. So I have a very unique vantage point of seeing, national team coaches. I think that a lot of times people hire mercenaries who don't really care too much about the national team. And I think that has been the biggest issue with me and Pochettino. He's had a fantastic career on his own, but I think going into it, they kind of knew what they were signing up for. So it's not really a shocker that he's going to leave after this cycle. I think that USA needs to kind of look within and hire people who genuinely care. Because you can look at the youth coaches or assistants or people like that, but I don't think it would affect it too much. I think the players know what they have to do, and they knew what they were signing up for in the first place.
So what do the players have to do in order to make it out of the group stage and make a little run here in the World Cup?
To be themselves. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of these boys play at the biggest clubs and play in Champions League and Europa League, and they're playing for the likes of Crystal Palace, who won yesterday. Chris Richards plays for them. You have Tyler Adams, whose team, Bournemouth, are going to Europa League. So you have these players who are extremely talented. It's just, can they listen to the coach's instructions? Can they get out their own heads? Because these are very talented boys. I was very lucky to speak to Tim Weah and Mark McKenzie last week, and they're hungry. You can see and speaking to them. These boys are really talented. They're hungry, and they know what they want to do. So it's down to luck sometimes when with the World Cup and the draw and all that. But they're at home and they know what sort of pressure is on them.
Tosin Makinde joining us on this Thursday morning. Tosin, when you look at the roster, is there a single player that you're the most excited to watch in the World Cup?
It would have been Diego Luna. I'm a big fan of Diego Luna. I wish he made the squad. But when I look at the team overall, I'm really interested in seeing how Malik Tillman, I know that's somebody that most people might know of, but I'm really excited to see what Malik Tillman does. I think what he's done with Leverkusen, what he's done in Germany in his career, he's done a really good job. So I'm excited to see how Malik Tillman scales up in the World Cup.
So Diego Luna, that seems to have been the hot button snub when it comes to this roster. Why do you think he should have made it? And what do you make of the snub of Diego Luna?
I'll start off with the snub. I think more so I'm not shocked. They kind of wanted to have more of a defensive-ish roster, especially given what Pochettino does. But I think what Diego Luna brings is ingenuity to the team. I truly believe that in the next year or two, he should leave the MLS if he wants to progress his career. This is no slight to the league. I think the league has gotten so much better since '96. And again, I've a lot of love for MLS. I was a ball boy for DC United for in '04 when Freddie Adu was around. So I have no slight to MLS, but I think that if he wants to scale his career up, he has to start looking at going to Spain or going to France and leagues like that. But Diego Luna brings sort of an ingenuity to the team where, he's a creative midfielder. He's somebody who could score goals, who can assist goals, and he just has that fight in him, right? Like when you watch him play, he has not to use the colloquial terms, but he has that dog in him, and that's just what he brings to the team. And I think that they kind of need that sort of person off the bench.
Man, Tosin, you opened up a treasure trove of memories. DC United, Freddie Adu era. Oh my goodness gracious, what a time that was up in the District of Columbia with the MLS. You mentioned a little bit how you expect them to play a little bit more defensively. Is that how they kind of filled out their roster? Did they focus heavily or heavier on the defensive side of the ball?
I would say a little bit so. I mean, there's a lot more defenders than attackers, but that's just the way I think they're going to play more of a back three. So when you're playing a back three and you have wing backs and two center midfielders, and, that's just the way that Pochettino's had this team play over the last however long he's had them. So it's not really a shock. I'm just more so shocked that there's not more ingenuity off the bench, but there's a lot of talent in this team. So the sky's the limit for them. But I know a lot of fans, I think, I refer to U.S. men's national team fans as, the 500 days of summer where the expectations don't meet the reality. They have a lot of high expectations, and the reality is that it's not quite there yet, but there's talent on this team.
Tosin Makinde joining us on this Thursday morning. And Tosin, I love that the expectations don't always meet the reality, the 500 days of summer. So what do you think the fans' expectation are, and what do you think the reality is for this U.S. men's national team in this year's World Cup?
I think like every year, the fans want a deep run with their national team. It doesn't matter who you support, right? Whether you're U.S. fans, Senegal, France, Spain, whatever. Everyone has delusional thoughts about the national team. Even me, that's Nigeria. We haven't qualified for back-to-back. And I still believe that, somehow in the next week we're going to somehow qualify again. But that's just being, silly about your national team. I think that they want a deep run for U.S. fans, but I also think that round of 16 quarterfinals might be as like their cap, honestly. I think that it's a hard route to get out, number one, but I think they'll get out their group. I think going after the knockout stage really just depends how the luck of the draw goes from there, who they play in the knockout rounds. And there's also the World Cup. It's teams that get really hot really quick, and there's teams who you never expect. No one expected Morocco to make the semifinals 4 years ago. No one expected Croatia to make the finals again. But that's just the way the World Cup is.
Yeah, it should be exciting. Other teams around, right? We all care about the U.S. men's national team to a certain extent, but we also, like for myself, I love the French national team. I have no connections to France. I'm Irish, English, and Scottish. I'm not rooting for any of them. So I've chosen France because the U.S. men's national team has let me down and hasn't been as much fun. So I like to follow along, see what France does. Are there other teams out there that we should be keeping an eye on that you think can have a successful World Cup?
I mean, obviously, France and Spain, Argentina, the heavy hitters, England, obviously. I really, really have a lot of love for Ecuador. I have a lot of love for Senegal, Morocco. I think Senegal, Morocco, Ecuador, for me, are the teams that I have my eyes completely peeled on, because Ecuador has had this just revolution in the academy system where you get Moses Caicedo and people like that, and Hincapié and, William Pacho. So they got a lot of talented players over there. I look at Senegal, I think arguably to me the best team on the African continent, another country that's done really well with the academy system back home, and the same thing with Morocco. They've also done a very good job with the academy system, getting this kid Ayub from we call him, he's from Lille. And when you get players like that who are very talented, who could easily play for France in the next couple of years, but they're picking their motherland, their fatherland, and you're starting to see whoa, things are changing. The same thing with Senegal. They got Ibrahim Mbappé, who plays for PSG, who's 17, turning 18. And when you start getting these really talented kids, you're starting to see, whoa, they're mixing diaspora, they're mixing the players from back home. So I'm really big on Senegal, Ecuador, and Morocco.
And do you think there's going to be a player that, just takes the country, or takes the world, I should say, by storm, and it's a name that'll just become a household name after the World Cup?
That's a very, very tough question. I mean, personally, I know he's already a mega household name. I think Mbappe is really, really hungry this year. I think for some reason Mbappe plays so well for France versus Real Madrid. I think at France he feels more at home. So I know it's pretty a household name, but if anything, I'm going to say Mbappe. I mean, this is going to be the year, arguably, he breaks the World Cup record for the most goals ever scored in the tournament. So there's that. And he has a lot of pressure on him, to deliver for his national team.
Hey, that's a good answer, because when there's history at stake, that typically draws the headlines, and it's probably something we'll be talking about and kind of watching each and every France game here on Fitz the Bill. But Tosin, really appreciate your time on this Thursday morning. We've got to talk again soon leading up to the World Cup.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for your time, Jeff.
Of course, there goes Tosin Makinde, soccer analyst. Really appreciate his time on this Thursday morning.